Now, I wanted to give you guys something to think about with this speech that Obama gave in Turkey at the G20, where he's blasting Republicans for urging greater caution before accepting more Syrian refugees, stating that that's shameful, right? Because they asked, well, how about Christians? And, well, you want to leave Muslims out. That's not, that's shameful of us to even think like that. Well, I want you to think about something just for a second. Do you remember when we had military training Afghanis, to be police and soldiers over there in Afghanistan, and then one guy or a couple guys get in there and start shooting up our American soldiers because they didn't know exactly who they were getting? Well, that's exactly what's going on here. The people are worried that people are going to come in here that we don't know what we're going to be getting. And instead of Obama pumping the brakes and taking that into consideration, and we know why that is, right? We don't need to get into all of those details, but he is putting down the accelerator. That's right. That's what he's doing. It's shameful not to let these Syrian refugees into the United States, right? Well, I want you to listen to the speech that he gave, and it'll become clear exactly why he believes that that's shameful. Listen to when he says the word we instead of they, and I'm not going to interrupt what he says. You can be able to make it out for yourself exactly what he means by what he says, all right?
But I also think the Muslim community has to think about how we make sure that children are not being infected with this twisted notion that somehow they can kill innocent people.
Most of you may have seen a little meeting that took place between Obama, Putin, and an interpreter, right? Well, it is being stated that after this constructive meeting between the two, there are reports and claims that Putin wants Syria's Assad gone. This impromptu meeting at the sidelines of the G20 summit currently underway in Turkey, Obama met his Russian counterpart, Putin, and according to the White House, both parties agreed on a political transition in Syria. The meeting precedes a report claiming Putin has already begun pressuring Syrian dictator Bashar al-Assad to step down. There's some pictures that have surfaced, and they're on this site right here, where it appears, that's what they're stating, that they are understanding that these pictures came from inside the concert, the Bataclan Concert Center, where the Eagles of Death metal band were playing. Now, they even go as far as to tell you what the name of the sixth song was that was playing when these alleged gunmen came in. I was kind of like, if they ever came out with that, like, are they paying attention to what we're asking for? Or is it because they are emphasizing it because they are sending a message? And I don't know. I'm not going to give my opinion on that. But the name of that sixth song was Kiss the Devil. Yeah, that's what the name of the song was. As you can see from this map right here, there are 10 U.S. states where the most Syrian refugees have been settled for the year 2015. And, well, if they have their way, 2016 is going to see a heck of a lot more. We've been hearing reports that Syrian refugees have been brought in to New Orleans, about 10,000. There are governors after governors after governors that are stating, no, we will not accept refugees. But all of that could be for nothing, because guess what? You have states like Pennsylvania, right? The governor of Pennsylvania, and our good friend Daniel Malloy in Connecticut, who says we are not going to stop taking refugees. That would not be the right thing to do. Well, consider this, is that if you have Obama, who is a double-crossing snake bastard, who is going to send Syrian refugees into at least those two states who are willing to accept them, and of course there's still going to be others that are going to be right along with that they will just funnel their way out of those states and make it their way into other states, because you can freely travel from East Coast all the way to the West Coast. There's nothing stopping them from traversing the United States, right? So anyway, there is approximately, 15 to 20 or more governors that are already on board with saying no to taking any refugees. But like I stated, for the reasons above, it is absolutely meaningless. I was going to report on a story last night about violence that had broken out between the Los Zetas drug cartel in a border town right across from Texas. Well, the violence broke out between them, the drug cartel, and military and Mexican authorities over there. Well, what has happened now, this is the latest word on that. The Los Zetas cartel gunmen were being chased by military and the Mexican authorities. Well, they escaped over across into the U.S. border in Texas and got away. But what they're stating is that while in pursuit, they did seize a dark SUV, and the weapons that Los Zetas gunmen had been carrying were confiscated because they were in the SUV. And guess what? Well, the Border Patrol is not knowing a dang thing about it. So there could be potentially some cartel members that may be stuck here in the United States. However, that is going to work out. Now, I think they have nothing to worry about, though, while they're over here. They'll meet up with their good buddy Eric Holder and the ATF and get another little supplement of the Fast and Furious supply, and they'll be doing okay. A Nashville talk radio show host has the right idea, Ralph Bristol. He spoke in front of a crowd of 500 people gathered outside the parking lot of a furniture and appliance store in Lebanon, Tennessee, telling them that it is the duty of every open carry permit holder that after the attacks on Paris, France, that it is his duty to carry that firearm. He goes on to say it's not going to do us any good if we're not carrying that gun. Well, like I stated, his ideas are in the right place. Now, if we could just get him on the radio to say it to his whole listening audience, and we can get that to go national. Now, the other part that I wanted to report on is that you have a North Carolina town. They are asking all of their people there in that town to turn in their guns, to make a pledge of nonviolence. And I say, poppycock. You got people out there that are pledging violence against us. That's my opinion. That's my opinion. And that it's not going to do any good to turn in those guns and not being able to have something to protect yourself against the people that have pledged violence against you. That's what I got to say. I already stated my opinion about what's going on in North Carolina in Greensboro. Well, the police were asking residents or encouraging them to sign a pledge of nonviolence and relinquish any unwanted handguns, rifles, shotguns, ammunition to the police on Saturday. And they did this at a Christian center. They did collect some guns, but as I stated that, well, the situation that we got going on right now, there are people that could potentially be out there who have a completely different pledge than the one that you would make. And I guarantee you those are going to come in handy to counter those people with that pledge. So think long and hard before you decide to turn in those unwanted guns and you don't have anything to protect yourself or your family. Think about that. Well, this ought to just make the German people happy over there. Chancellor Angela Merkel is refusing to drop her open-door migration policy, insisting that the first priority following the attacks on Paris is to protect innocent refugees and restore hope to them. Well, what about the people that you have been sworn to represent? What do they want? Do they want to feel protected, and what's the best way for them to feel protected? Well, this is not the way to go about it. Once you lose your position of office, do you really expect that you can live a life of safety for yourself, even from your own people? Because I guarantee you, if something happens to one of those people, they are going to hold you personally responsible later on. Well, of course, unless you're living in a bunker along with your other cronies and other politicians from around the world when all hell breaks loose. Just saying. Last week there were some articles going around about an A-list actor who had AIDS, but they weren't exactly saying who it was. Now the National Enquirer and TMZ are both coming out and stating that it must be Charlie Sheen. Well, Enquirer says that he's had HIV for at least 4 years, or has known it for 4 years, right? And, well, TMZ says that Charlie Sheen says that he's known he's had HIV for 2 years, but other sources say it's been much longer than that, 4 or more. But that Charlie Sheen is stating that it is no longer showing up in his system. Well, anyway, Charlie Sheen is slated to make a revealing personal announcement tomorrow on the Today Show. But tomorrow, with Matt Lauer. So the growing list of governors who've climbed on board to not accept refugees is now up to like 23. Arizona Governor Doug Ducey, or Ducey, or however you pronounce his name, he's one of the latest who has halted accepting any more Syrian refugees. But as I said, it doesn't really matter, does it? As long as you have 1 or 2 states, especially Connecticut with Daniel Malloy, the good buddy of Obama, who they owe each other favors, especially over the events of December of 2012. Well, like I said, if you have even just one of those states of Pennsylvania or Connecticut, those refugees could flow anywhere coast to coast within the United States. At the very end, in the description box, you will find a couple added extra links where I show you just a couple of things about where allegedly ISIS states that they've made a hit list on some of the states here, Texas, Indiana, a few other locations, and also links to articles that talks about what all the states have are climbed on board with refusing to allow refugees into their state. Thanks, everybody.